Good morning again. It is Friday, which means it's almost the weekend, which in my mind doesn't mean much of anything these days, but hopefully everybody's well out there. We are going to do 2 arm exercises, one bicep, one tricep, and then sort of 3 of my go-to stretches, one for your quadriceps and hip flexors, one for your hamstrings, and then one for those sort of outside of the hips, maybe a smidge of lower back. So I'm going to start with the arm exercises. Obviously, this is good to kind of throw in at the end. You could add these 2 to the other arm exercises and shoulder exercises we did last week. Make sort of a 6 exercise set if you wanted to do a long arm set, either at the end or just on its own with a core workout or something. So we're going to start with the bicep exercise. So I've set up a resistance band. It took me a while to kind of play around, as it does these days, and find the right tension. So I'm doubling up a green band. You could use a single red band, step out further, right? Find the tension that you feel is right for you. Nice thing about doing it this way is we get to work a little bit on that kind of core stability too. So again, sort of locking in that lower rib to hip bone distance, right? You're going to extend the one arm that you're working on all the way out, and you're just going to curl in and then out with control to a straight arm. Set the shoulders back and down, curl in, all the way back out to a straight arm. Good. So when you get to that inside part of the movement right here, really try and get a good squeeze, and then notice if you're sort of jutting the hip out to stabilize yourself and try and get that work back in the core, sort of a anti-movement exercise for the core, right? So really trying to keep that rigid as you squeeze and work the bicep. Really nicely done. All right, so same thing on the second side, which means my back side's going to be turned to you guys, so I apologize. But just so you can see the other part of it, right, is not only locking in that core, but also locking in that shoulder back and down, right? No shoulders rounded forward, right? Shoulder each time, back and down, curl all the way in. Try and stay the same distance. Try and stay the same distance away from the door as you did on the second side. One side may feel way easier, but that is why we do the lateral work, to try and bring those sides slowly closer together. So when you've done your 10 on the second side, down with the tricep movement, the bicep movement, we're going to move on to the tricep movement. So we're going to do, I don't know if everybody can see Mercury on the back of the couch underneath the blanket. Keeping things interesting. Okay, so we're going to do a tricep dip. So these make the rounds of a lot of home workouts. They can be tough on the shoulders. So I'm going to set up on the side of the couch, and I'm going to do sort of the basic version where my knees are at 90 degrees. The trick with these is you want to keep your rear end close to whatever you're using, and you'll see a lot of people kind of let their shoulders roll forward and kind of hunch forward. No bueno on the shoulders, right? So shoulders back and down, elbow pits rotated forward. Again, just keeping the shoulder blades in a nice safe place, right? We're going to just keep the elbows move straight back, hips lower. If you ever feel those shoulder blades kind of roll forward or those shoulders hunch forward, you've gone low enough, right? So set the shoulders back and down, squeeze back up, right? Shoulders reach, elbows reach back, push and squeeze to the top. So if you're not able to get a lot of depth because of your shoulders, then go for a little bit, moving slowly. And then when you get up to the top, really squeeze the arms to straight and work those triceps right at the top of the movement. So elbows moving back, staying close to the couch or the chair, whatever surface you're using. Good. Not letting those shoulders roll forward too much, trying to really keep them pinched back down the back. Good. So there's a pretty aggressive stretch over the front side of the shoulder. right across here on these. So use your best judgment. If that's not the tricep exercise for you, then you can go back to last week's arm set and work on those other exercises instead. Okay, so we're going to do 3 stretches. We're going to start with the hip stretch. Get down on your mat, right? We're going to start with one leg almost fully extended, cross the other one over so that the ankle is just above the knee. You're going to pull this toe into the shin. That just keeps the knee from moving out of its hinge joints, right? Keeps it from subluxing, right? So we'll keep the knee safe if you keep this toe pulled in. We're going to kind of cheat ourselves into good posture by using our hands to make ourselves sit up straight. And at this stage, you should almost already feel the stretch in the outside of that hip on the bent knee. So the knee, in this case for my right side, is going to push away from my body down towards the mat, sort of down and away. My ankle's engaged above my knee, and I'm sitting up nice and tall. I'm trying to keep the weight evenly distributed between my 2 hips for this particular exercise. And then I'm going to see if I can take an inhale, lift and lengthen my torso. My exhale, I'm going to try and reach that knee away a little bit further. And then just do that same thing a couple of times, right? On the inhale, sort of lengthening the torso. On the exhale, trying to reach that knee a little bit further away. We're going to walk the hands in a couple of inches, pick our hips up, walk our hips in. So each time you walk in, the stretch gets a little bit more intense. Again, use those hands to sort of cheat yourself into good posture. Toe stays engaged on that right leg. Knee reaches away. Torso stays lifted. And then again. So each time you come in, I'm doing the kind of quickie version. But take your time with each section, right? Try and find like you're making a little progress in each section. And if you don't get in this far, if your 3 steps are an inch or less, it doesn't matter if you end up just staying in that first position and working on that first position. That's totally fine too. So again, on the inhale, lengthening. On the exhale, trying to reach that knee away, keeping the ankle engaged right above that other knee also. And then all the way back to the start. And then the same 3 kind of angles or positions on the second side, right? So toe engaged, toe pulls in towards the shin, relatively even through both hips. Sit up tall. As you sit up tall, inhale. As you exhale, reach that knee away, even through both sit bones. Use your hands to push yourself up and forward a little bit. Same thing. Second time, right? Toe stays in. Knee reaches away. Ankle stays engaged above that knee. And then one more step in. Same thing. Up tall. Foot active. Knee away. In. And you should feel the work again on the outside of the knee that's up and over. You should feel it down over that hip. Second exercise we're going to do is our hamstring stretch. So you don't need a yoga strap for this. We use a yoga strap in the gym, but you can just use a towel, right? Obviously, depending on your flexibility, you may need a longer and or shorter towel. For our purposes, we're going to keep the opposite knee bent, which just means we're taking our other hamstring sort of out of the picture. I'm going to do this dynamically. So shoulders are going to stay back and down. The knee is going to bend. You're going to reach the leg to straight and then pull in. Bend the knee, push away to straight, pull in, right? So if you have a longer strap or really tight hamstrings, you may have to push out to here to get a fully straight leg before you pull back in, right? So you be the judge on how tight that hamstring is. So bending the knee, straightening, gently pulling in. Oops. Bending the knee, straightening, and then gently pulling in. And you can play with how active the foot is, right? If you pull the toe in towards the shin, you'll move some of the stretch depending on where your tightness is, sometimes a little bit behind the back of the knee, sometimes down in that calf. So find one that's productive and feels good for you. You can also sort of play with what you do with this glute, right? If you reach that glute out and away, you end up getting a little bit more stretch down in that glute and the top part of the hamstring. So you be the judge. And with any of this stretching, you just want to find that place of possibly mild discomfort, but never pain, right? It might be just on the edge, and you maybe want to like barely step up almost to that edge, but you don't want to cross it over, right? So just listen to what your body's telling you about what's possible. And just remember, you're going to kind of show up different every day. That's okay too. It's the same thing, kind of bending the knee, straightening the leg by pushing it away, and then gently pulling in. Good. You can play with just making this a little bit more static once you've found kind of as much stretch as you want, right? And just kind of staying in that same position. Play with pulling the toe in towards the shin. Notice what that does. And then taking the glute or the hip and thinking about reaching it away from your torso. All of those things kind of change where muscle stretches. All right, so hamstrings done, glutes done, or hips done. Last but not least, we're going to do the hip flexor stretch. So get something cushy underneath that back knee, so it's a non-factor in how long you can kind of hold the stretch and or kind of move around and play with the stretch. You want to have your feet, whether it's the foot behind you or the foot in front of you, in line with your hip bones, right? So not too far out, not too far in for these purposes, right? I'm going to do a variation today where we sort of tuck that hip bone under. So you take that pelvis and then you just kind of scoop it up and under, like you're sucking this butt muscle under, sucking the tailbone under just a little bit. And then you're going to lean forward. With the tailbone or that hip tucked, you're going to get less range of motion than you would if you don't have that tuck. Takes the stretch up a little bit further up the leg and into that hip flexor. Then you're going to extend the fingers on the back leg up towards the ceiling. If you're really connected, you can feel the stretch of the fingertips reaching up all the way down into that hip flexor. And then you're just going to gently reach over to the side. So again, you can sort of do this dynamically, moving in and out of it, right? Come back, set that glute underneath, lean in, reach to the ceiling, reach over, come back, glute under, lean in, reach, and then little lean over. And then obviously doing the same thing on the second side. So tucking that hip, right, underneath. Make sure the feet are in the right position. Leaning in, reaching up, and then gently over. Come back to the start, tucking the hip, leaning in, reaching up, gently over. You can also play with the breath once you're leaned over, right? So if you inhale and you're here, then the rib cage expands, and you also add a little bit more reach and length down into that hip flexor. And then come back, tuck the hip under one more time, reaching up, reaching over, taking a breath, and then just coming back. All right, so 3 stretches, 2 arm exercises. Have at it. I hope everybody is doing well and has a wonderful Friday, and I will see you Monday. Thanks, guys.